President Donald Trump can still make good on his promise to end the weaponization of law enforcement. Tonight, Sununu and Matt Taibbi on the endless investigations that lead us nowhere. Celiza and Lori Watkins on how Democrats get back to the winning side of popular issues. And wait until you hear what young Republicans, yes, Republicans, are saying about Israel. Andrew Colvett reacts. But first, our Why It Matters tonight. Enough is enough. Americans on the right, the left, and in the middle are sick and tired of the political investigations and retribution. Today, the president threw his support behind a proposal from Republican Senators Lindsey Graham and John Cornyn to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate Obama officials over Russiagate.
And the documents they found on President Obama, frankly, it was an Obama thing, but it was the people that worked under him also working with him. And no, it's a very, very serious thing.
President Trump ran on ending the weaponization of politicization in the Justice Department. This week, though, he's done a full 180. He openly admitted, whether it's right or wrong, that it's time to go after people. But for what exactly? Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard released a report this week which showed how anxious former President Barack Obama and the intelligence agencies were to cast a shadow over Donald Trump's first administration by insinuating that he only won the 2016 election with the help from Russia. Obama ordered a report, which quickly leaked to the press, which purported to show that Russian President Vladimir Putin aspired to help Trump get elected and to damage Hillary Clinton. The report was based on flawed, hastily assembled intel by people desperate to undermine Trump's victory. And they succeeded. The obsessive, hysterical coverage in the press hobbled President Trump's entire first term. It is an outrage, one of, if not the greatest scandal in American political history. It was a reflection of the seething hatred the Democratic elites had, not just for Trump, but for his voters, the forgotten men and women of America's working class who viewed in Trump a champion. Here is just a sampling of how the media breathlessly covered the lie that Russia had hacked the election.
The Russians definitively hacked the election.
Russia did hack the election.
The president does not want to come to terms with the fact that the Russians hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
If you can get him to accept that Russia hacked the election, see if you can get him to accept who won the Civil War.
And they did this despite President Obama definitively saying that Russia hadn't hacked the voting tallies in December of 2016. This is awful, awful stuff. And the media and the intelligence and Democratic officials and elites who participated in it deserve nothing but the utter contempt of the American people. But was it a crime? It matters because, of course, no one is above the law. But if there is no crime here, but instead a series of dastardly, un-American, reprehensible, yet ultimately legal actions, it makes the hoopla around the DNI report all too similar to the political retribution Trump ran on ending. As the Wall Street Journal editorial board noted, that lawfare backfired on Democrats, and our guess is that it would do the same on Republicans and Mr. Trump. Certainly, it's difficult to see how President Obama could be accused of a crime. Like Trump, Obama has immunity, thanks to a Supreme Court ruling from last year. Other major conservative voices have also cast aspersions on the criminal angle, including Andy McCarthy of the National Review. Remember Special Counsel John Durham's investigation into the transfer of power in 2017? He couldn't deliver the goods. Durham charged 2 people and lost in court both times. This quote from his report says everything. Not every injustice or transgression amounts to a criminal offense. An investigation by the Senate Intelligence Committee came to the same conclusion, and those senators stand by their report despite Gabbard's claims. Now, again, none of this is to downplay the seriousness of the Russiagate hoax. In fact, the opposite. The attempt to elevate Russiagate to the legal standard of treason, a standard that it will almost certainly fail to meet, is actually, in my opinion, doomed to undermine the seriousness of what actually took place. It's time to break the endless cycle of politically motivated investigations once and for all, and truly only President Trump can do it. Throughout the campaign and even right after it, he offered us a blueprint for how.
My revenge is going to be success. We're going to make this country so successful. We're going to make this country so successful again. I'm not going to have time for retribution. And remember this, our ultimate retribution is success. My revenge will be success. I'm really looking to make our country successful. I'm not looking to go back into the past. I'm looking to make our country successful. Retribution will be through success.
Where's that guy? So far, the administration is going down a very different path. Attorney General Pam Bondi is forming a task force to look into the Russia case. In a statement, she said, "We will investigate these troubling disclosures fully and leave no stone unturned to deliver justice." We begin tonight with Chris Sununu, former Republican governor of New Hampshire, a man who is a uniter and not a divider, and Matt Taibbi, editor and award-winning reporter for Racket News, and I have to say, the best journalist of my generation. And I chose you both very, very intentionally. Let's start with you, Matt, because I have so much respect for you, and I know that you are coming at this from a different point of view. So convince me. I want to believe. I want to be convinced. What's the crime here?
Well, Batya, I've been covering this story for years now, and for me, it's fairly simple. I mean, off the top of my head, I can think of a number of different crimes that come into play. We know they abused the FISA system to illegally put people under FISA surveillance during a presidential campaign. So if we prosecuted people for Watergate, which was about political spying during a presidential campaign, why don't we do this? We know that senior intelligence officials perjured themselves before Congress repeatedly. And, you know, we have to see what else is in there. And we also don't know who else and what other cases might have taken place under Joe Biden's presidency that might have used the same rationale to put more people under surveillance.
But the FISA warrant, that's not new in the Gabbard report.
It's not new, but it's part of the overall pattern of conduct. Clearly, Carter Page, they continued that FISA warrant after this intelligence community assessment. I doubt they would have re-upped it if they had not continued that investigation. They were about to close the books on all the other investigations. So I think it's part of a pattern of conduct. And by the way, with that FISA warrant, they got visibility into almost all of Trump's contacts, because you're not just getting surveillance on one person with a FISA warrant, you're getting surveillance on everybody with whom that person's in contact.
Governor, I want to ask you how you see this. Do you agree with my assessment that there is something about this that reflects poorly on the energy of Trump's campaign, the kind of unifying agenda, the success that he actually is having, and yet seems so anxious to talk about this instead?
Yeah, so look, I think that it's very likely Obama or officials within the White House are very much at fault here and drove a lot of this. I think the intelligence community could be hung out to dry. But I guess the way I would put it is America doesn't care. They really don't. I mean, at this point, they care to a certain extent, but I think the point that you brought up earlier, which is most important, everybody wants to move on. Even Trump wants to move on. Now, I get why this is hitting the headlines. I don't think Trump is doing very well with the Epstein files. I think they're trying to buy themselves some time with their MAGA base, because that's the only group that really is going to dive in and keep, harping on this. And I'm not saying wrongdoing didn't happen. I think absolutely it happened by the Obama administration, unquestionably, and maybe in going into the Biden administration as well. But understand that was 10 years ago, at least 10 years ago. And America is just moving on. So I don't think anyone's saying nothing happened, but there's no political win. And the fear I have is that Trump is going to step on the other very important political stories of the Democrat Party that are more pertinent to the 26th election, which is Mamdani, Hunter Biden 2.0, wokeism that won't go away, AOC. These are huge winners, right? The opportunity he has for either immigration reform or some other big bill coming down the line. So I just don't want him to step on his own wins by harping on something that the bulk of America is like, yeah, that some wrongdoing probably happened there, but what are you doing for me today? Because people still care about inflation and paying rent and having housing and all those important things. So I think there's huge wins for Trump here. I don't like to see him get distracted.
So, Matt, I understand it's very frustrating to hear that you worked so hard to uncover so much of this, which we wouldn't have known about but for your reporting. Now there's an official report that comes out and sort of says, look, it happened, which we owe you a debt for having exposed all of that. I guess my question is, do you think that the charge of treason is justified? Do you not think that Obama has the same immunity that Trump had? Do you think that the messaging around this from the Trump administration is warranted?
Well, treason, I think, would be very difficult because a precondition of that is a declared war, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think it can be treason. My understanding is that they're going after some kind of conspiracy case, but I respectfully disagree. I think Trump's base very much cares about this. He ran on taking on the quote-unquote deep state, and a criminal case against the senior officials of the intelligence community, where they actually are guilty in an enormous way, would be very gratifying to his base. I can tell you that a lot of people today were high-fiving already when they heard that James Clapper had to lawyer up the former director of national intelligence because of this report. So I totally disagree. I think this is a political win because this is true. You always follow your nose with this thing. Like, if he was going after a phony case, that would be one thing, but this case is not phony.
But Matt, they do keep talking about treason. Go ahead, Governor.
Yeah, if I may, I think Matt's absolutely right. It is a huge win for Trump's base, but that's it. That's 38% of people that are going to support Trump through hell or high water. He needs to get political wins with the rest of America. And the rest of America might say, yes, there was absolute wrongdoing here, but they don't care enough to start bringing the Obamas back up, start reliving 10 years in the past. So I think he's absolutely right. Huge win for his base. He doesn't need wins with his base. He absolutely doesn't. He's stalling time with his base because of the Epstein thing, but he's got his base. And what we need as Republicans in 26 are those independent voters, are focusing on things that independents are worried about, like inflation and wokeism and all those things that we won on in 24. This isn't what we won on in 24, right, necessarily. This is, we won because we got independents and even some blue dog Democrats and some working class Democrats to come on board. They don't really care about this. And if you're going to tell, he had record numbers with Latinos and record numbers with African-American voters for the Republican Party. They're not going to want to go after Obama. They're not. So you don't want to disenfranchise those folks. I'm not saying, Matt, I think what the work Matt has done is phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. I just don't think it brings the political win we need to get more seats in the House and the Senate and governorships come 26.
And Matt, if I could just ask, so here we have a little bit of what these kinds of investigations cost. Now, I understand what you're saying, you know, getting to the bottom, getting to the truth, nobody's above the law. Of course, these are all really important, but I mean, just look at the cost of these investigations, you know, $32 million, Robert Mueller, $6.5 million, John Durham, $23 million, Jack Smith. And beyond just the cost, I wonder if I could ask you, I mean, do you really have full faith in the Pam Bondi DOJ that, okay, you said you don't think that it's possible that there's a treason here. Do you really have full faith that they're not going to over-prosecute, go too far, you know, destroy lives, that this is not going to be taken to a place you would not be comfortable with?
I mean, we'll have to see, but you know, I was very skeptical of Kash Patel when he conducted the first investigation that came out in the so-called Nunes memo, and he turned out to be completely right. That would have been an airtight prosecution if they had gone forward with all of the FISA abuse cases. And here we have to see where it is they exactly land and what kind of case they're trying to put together. But there are people in this Justice Department who know this case inside and out and know where the weak spots are. And maybe people won't want to see Barack Obama go to justice, but I think John Brennan is a different commodity. This is not a very likable person, and he's a symbol of the kind of abuses that have gone on, frankly, since the WMD episode back in the early 2000s. So we'll have to see.
Governor, Matt, God bless you both, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.